Hey guys, what's up? It's Cuber, and you're watching my full comparison of the Moyu Aolong version 2 and the Moyu Hualong. So it's pretty widely considered that the Moyu Aolong version 2 and the Hualong are your best choices when choosing a new speed cube, although I know not everyone will agree with me on this. Either one of these cubes is a really safe bet if you're new to cubing, or just getting back into it and want a new cube. So we know both of these cubes are really good, but that's sort of vague. So we're going to be exploring the differences between these two cubes and finding out which one will be the best fit for you. This comparison will be broken up into 5 parts: turning, corner cutting, locking/popping, corner twisting, and overall performance. Each cube will receive a score out of 10 at the end of every round. If it's a tie, both cubes will receive the same score. Then we'll compare the scores at the end to see who the winner is. So, let's get started. The turning of the Aolong V2 is very dependent on how you set it up. Every Aolong I've ever tried is a little bit different, but it generally has a buttery but slightly crispy controlled feel. Mine has been my main ever since I got it, and there were times when I was using other cubes more, but for the most part I've used my Aolong the most. It has about 6,000 to 8,000 solves and has gone through several different stages. I first lubed it with weight 4 on the core and pieces, and that worked well for about 90% of its lifetime. Then pretty recently it was getting really slow and sluggish, and after cleaning it out and re-lubing it, it didn't get much better, so I completely replaced the core, hardware, and centers with new ones and re-lubed the core with weight 4 again. This made it a lot better, and after breaking in the new core, it felt about as good as it did before. But I still wanted it to be faster, so I cleaned it out again and lubed the tracks of the pieces with weight 5 and the main surface area where the pieces make contact with speedy. This made the cube really light, buttery, and extremely fast, while being very controllable, and it's basically the best it's ever been. The Hualong is a bit of a simpler story. It's generally a very crunchy, crispy cube. It's much louder than the Aolong and not quite as controllable. It's a very speedy cube that has gotten me some of my fastest TPS while solving, and got me my first ever sub 10. The biggest problem with it is that I'm not quite as consistent than I am on my Aolong. So for turning, the Aolong gets a 10 out of 10, and the Hualong gets a 9 out of 10. Corner cutting, like with just about any other cube, is really easy to talk about. Both of these cubes cut over 45 regular and 3/4 reverse, which is way more than what you ever need during a solve. The reason why we talk about corner cutting really in reviews anymore is just to establish that the cube will cut just as good as any cube in the past, and that it will handle small cuts just fine. So this round is a tie. Both cubes receive a 10 out of 10. Moving on to locking/popping, neither of these cubes pop, so that gets that out of the way, and neither of these cubes really lock up either. I do get small little catches here and there, and more so on the Hualong due to it not being as stable as I would like, but generally both of these cubes are pretty fluid. So for locking/popping, the Aolong gets a 10 out of 10, and the Hualong gets a 9 out of 10. So moving on to corner twisting. The Aolong generally doesn't have a problem with corner twisting. That was actually one of the main reasons it was made, since corner twisting was one of the biggest issues with the V1, and it's what caused Felix's fail world record. We all know about that by now. But ironically, Felix actually never switched to the V2, but that's besides the point. Of the close to 8,000 solves I've done on the Aolong, I've probably only gotten about 100 corner twists or so, which is not bad at all. As for the Hualong, I'd say I've done closer to 1,000 solves and have only gotten about 50 corner twists, which isn't quite as good as the Aolong, but also not terrible. So for corner twisting, the Aolong gets a 9 out of 10, and the Hualong gets an 8 out of 10. So moving on to our final category, overall performance. The Aolong V2, like you all know, is one of my favorite cubes of all time. It's very fast, performs well, and has been very reliable. It's been my main since I got it for those reasons, and I can't really see it getting replaced for a long time. The Hualong, for me, is similar to a certain degree. It's fast, very fast, performs really well, and is generally quite reliable. And although the Aolong is my main, I wouldn't really have any problems with using the Hualong in a competition if something were to happen to my Aolong. I guess the main reason I don't use the Hualong as my main is because I just have more experience with the Aolong V2 and I prefer the feel. And so really it all comes down to personal preference. And that's why this round is a tie. Both cubes receive a 9 out of 10. So we've gone through all our sections, so let's compare scores and see which cube won. So out of the maximum 50 points each cube could receive, the Aolong V2 got a 48 out of 50, and the Hualong got a 45 out of 50. So pretty close, but the Moyu Aolong V2 is the winner here. And I'm sure a lot of you guys saw that coming since the Aolong V2 is my main, but I tried to keep this as objective as possible, but I really still feel the Aolong V2 is better than the Hualong for me. However, it might not be the best fit for you, so summed up quickly, if you want a quick, reliable, smooth cube, go for the Aolong, and if you want a super speedy, crunchy cube, go for the Hualong. They're both the same price as well at $16, so you're not going to be paying more or less for whichever cube. If you would like to buy either cube, the links to both of them will be in the description. So that about wraps up my comparison of the Moyu Aolong version 2 and the Moyu Hualong. If you like this video, give it a like, and if you haven't already done so, like my Facebook page, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and of course subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.